Back to reality. Comes Tyler.
You can see from this.
Yeah.
Oh, we got 30 seconds to spare.
Can you sign in? If you're gonna be late, sign in.
Hey, short time.
Hey, how you doing?
Do you like these two share a table over here?
Oh, yeah. You gotta share a table with the short timer.
Congratulations on your response here.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Yeah. I'm just gonna sit here.
Got a carrier one. Hey, Nick.
Stacy. How you doing? Ready? All right, 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Tyler?
Here.
Jeff?
Yep.
John?
Here.
Deb?
Here.
Andrew?
Here. All right, before we get this meeting started, we all know we had a very difficult week last week as we lost a junior student at the high school, Nolan Poole. So I ask please for a moment of silence in Nolan's honor. Thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Do we have anyone tonight for public forum? I don't believe we do. So we'll go ahead and do admin reports.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple things. Wanted to update you on our 21-22 Return to Learn update. Just a few things there. Wanted to let everyone know that we had a employee booster clinic last week, and we had 86 staff members get the booster. So we thought that was pretty successful. And then last week we had 116 kids ages 5 to 11 get their first COVID shot. So we're happy with that. I want to thank Ashley Soma for organizing everything and putting it all together. I also want to thank the Gilbert Lutheran Church for allowing us to utilize their space. So we're very happy with that as well. So the other couple of pieces related to the Return to Learn plan, just so you're aware, starting in January, we are going to bring back field trips, more opportunity for kids to leave the building and have field trips. And the other thing is we're going to open up volunteers for in-classroom projects where if a parent is being invited in to work on a project with a teacher, something like that. Not so much the lunch pieces, but the other pieces related to in-classroom. So those are two pieces that we're going to add to our Return to Learn plan. So just so you're aware of that. Let's see. Also, well, I think we'll be ready, Jason. We know Thanksgiving is coming up, and so we want to share a short video that we put together with the help of Amy Griffin and our tech interns for all of us to things to think about when being thankful. And we're going to see that in just a second. So we're going to enjoy this for a minute. I'll be sharing this with the staff tomorrow and then sending out to the community after that. Just a quick video of things to be thankful for.
So I would cook it, and then I would cut it. The turkey was my dad, my the first I was cut it off pieces, then we would cook it, then we had to my teacher, my mom and dad. Friends. My friend. My friend Rose. Each other.
Sports.
My friends.
Music. Our hair.
School.
I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you to our tech interns and to Amy Griffin. So I said, how about we do something like this, and then they put it together to make that happen. So I'm very grateful to them for that. So thank you to all of our students that participated in that. Also wanted to just mention that, let's see, I think I have one other thing. Oh, yes, so the Gilbert Education Foundation, they put out mini grants to our teachers, and they funded close to $15,000 worth of classroom projects that, so I want to thank Carrie Clark for leading that and sharing that with the foundation. And then there was another $3,000 worth of projects that we took care of from the district side of things. So lots of classroom projects that are being funded, and very grateful to the foundation for that. So that is another report that I wanted to share. And then the last piece that I had, you have in your information, as I shared with you earlier, is our district goals that we brought forward. With that, I had 3 goals that we set, and then I worked with the principals administration on creating action steps to how to make have those goals happen. And so those you have in your Dropbox that are available, and we'll be reviewing those again as we move forward in the school year to kind of say, how did we do? Were these action steps what we needed to get to the goal, and what did that look like? And so we'll be bringing that to you at the end, closer to the end of the year, so you have that information. So that is the end of my reports, and then I can just go into celebrations and announcements if you are ready for that.
Any questions or comments on the district goals or action steps? It's on there. I don't have any. But thank you for putting that together, Christine. We can go right into announcements. That's okay with you?
Sure, I just wanted to make the announcement that our business manager, Gail Hopkins, is not here. She's out for an extended leave. Unfortunately, she and her husband had a serious car accident, and so she is at home but working intermittently for us. So she shouldn't be watching. She should be resting. But I'm going to bed. I'll wave to Gail and say hello, Gail.
Gail, we miss you. We hope you get better soon. We know you're watching. There's no lies you're not. So wishing you all the best. Safe recovery.
That's right. We miss you terribly. So I want to thank Jill for being here and filling in. So thanks, Jill. We appreciate that. And the whole team is filling in as needed. So we're grateful to all of them. And then with that, we have a very exciting group here to share with us tonight. The Gilbert High School FFA group went to National Convention, and they're going to tell us all about it. So why don't you guys come on down and tell us all about it. We're excited. They have some exciting news to share also. So nice to have you here this evening.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Piper Soma. I'm Jaden Renault.
I'm Michaela Richard.
I'm Julia Humble.
And I'm Abby Peace.
And we're here to represent the Gilbert FFA chapter to talk about our trip to National Convention.
So on our first day, we left on Tuesday and we began our drive to Indianapolis. And on the way, we stopped at Kinsey Manufacturing Inc., where we got to see some cool equipment for farming, and there was a lot of interactive stuff that we got to learn from.
Then Tuesday night, we met up with the Webster City FFA team, and we went bowling and we ate dinner at the place we went bowling at, and then we stayed at the Farm Plaza.
Wednesday morning, we all kind of did our own thing, got some breakfast, and then went to the Indianapolis Zoo, which was a fun way to start our morning.
Then Wednesday afternoon, we went and changed into our official dress, which we are all wearing this evening. And we got to check into the actual national convention part where we got to walk through the trade show and we went to a general session. So there we got to meet all of the national officer team and we heard some speeches. And then we also heard from a keynote speaker, Courtney Dehoff, that has a lot to do with livestock, with cattle and horses.
Then Wednesday night, we all got to go to Dave and Buster's and we ate dinner together, and that's when we did arcade games, which was super fun.
So Thursday morning was probably our most eventful part of the trip. We sent off our horse eval team to their competition at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. And then the other members of the group, we all went around the career fair and we got to talk with different colleges and different businesses and just get to know more about them. And we also, some of us from Webster City and Gilbert went to a history museum. So then that's a picture of us outside the history museum. And then we also went on the trade show and we went back to the career fair.
So then the horse evaluation competition, it was Piper, me, Michaela, and then my older sister Jordan, who could not make it because she's in college now. So we all started like this whole horse evaluation and horse judging part in 4th grade. So we started with our 4-H leaders. So we got to prepare with our 4-H leaders and a Iowa State vet med student, and then another girl who has been horse judging her whole life and has also been to this competition before. So we got to prepare ourselves for that and everything, and then we made our way to the horse evaluation competition.
All right, so we got to our competition and got checked in, and we had a little orientation, kind of explained what our day was gonna look like. And we moved right into performance classes, which is more like a riding kind of class. So the handler is riding the horse, and it's more based on how they move and things like that, not just the horse. And then there were halter classes, which is when the handler is on the ground, leading the horse around, and it's more based on the body structure and composition of the horse. And once we got done with all those classes, we turned in our placings and got ready for giving reasons, which Michaela's going to touch a little more on now.
So reasons were justifying why we placed the class the way we did, right? And all of our state competitions, we've only done 2 sets of reasons. Well, we went in and did 4 sets of reasons in 3 hours. And you memorize these and you go and individually talk to the panel of judges, and they listen to you and score you based on that. So I have my set of reasons for one of my classes from the convention, and I will read them to you. So, good afternoon. I placed today's class as stock type halter 2314. This class had a very easily distinguishable top and bottom pair when considering the levels of balance and quality. Starting off with my first place horse, number 2, the black, was large when considering mass. He was also largest from stifle to stifle. His neck tied in at an ideal position on his shoulder, giving him a slight advantage over horse number 3, Rosora. Again, both of these horses were very balanced and muscular, so there's a large difference shown between my top and bottom pair. Horse number 1, the Palomino, starts off my bottom pair because of its decent quality and adequate amount of muscling. This horse is fundamentally correct, but simply did not compete with the black Rosora horse today. The Palomino fits more of a performance type halter class, while this was a stock type halter class. Rounding out the class comes the horse we saw last, the gray, because of its unproportionate hip and unbalanced body with no muscling present. Once again, I placed today's class as stock type halter 2314. Thank you. So how we're judged on this is we have a panel of judges and they come up what they think is the correct placings, and there will be cuts. So if we switch a pair, they're going to take off a certain amount of points depending on what they believe is correct.
And then Thursday night, we had like a family dinner, I guess you could call it, with the Webster City FFA chapter, and we went to Novo.
Friday morning, we checked out of our hotel and we started our drive back home. We stopped at Fair Oaks Farm, which is a pig unit, and we got to walk around, see like their farrowing place and all their little baby pigs. And our awards was live streamed, so we got to watch it there. We were all huddled around the phone. We found out that we placed 7th nationally, and we tied for 6th, but ended up 7th. Jaden and myself, we placed in the gold division, and then Jordan and Piper placed in the silver.
Oh.
All right, then Friday afternoon was when we went and drove home. We stopped at Steak and Shake for lunch and then kept driving back home.
And after like close to 8 hours of driving, we made it.
We had many takeaways from this trip. First of all, we were able to spend a lot of time with our fellow FFA members we normally don't get to spend extra time with. Overall, it was a really good bonding experience, and we were able to connect with each other over our common interest in agriculture. At the career fair, we were able to discover more possibilities to find internships, and we connected to several different colleges and universities. And we explored a multitude of businesses and companies within a wide range of agricultural areas. And lastly, we witnessed the extensive outreach of FFA in our country. We got to meet a lot of people from many different states.
And then a huge thanks to Mr. Davis and the Vendas for putting up with a bunch of teenage girls and one boy. And then Mrs. Miller sent us with very amazing care packages and stuff to keep us busy on the way. And then huge thanks to parents in the Gilbert Community School District.
Awesome. Great job, ladies. Thank you so much for presenting. We're very, very proud of you, ladies. I keep saying ladies, there's no guys in this. So I can't that we're here. Any questions for the group?
Was Iowa State at the fair?
Yes, they were.
Pharaoh's, the pig farm you visited, it's an exhibition. What, any take homes from there, or what were some of the things that they were talking about?
They were currently having takeaways at that time, so we got to watch some of that and just, there were lots of different places that you could just read about different information. So we did get to learn a little bit about how that whole process works at the farm.
Well, we love it when kids come and present to us. And so I'm not gonna take credit for this. This is Christine's idea. So we got a little gift for you. Tonight, we got exactly 5. Thank the Lord. Thank you ladies so much.
Thank you.
Great job. We're very
you.
proud.
Thank you.
Wanted to add, the kids were excellent. We heard from different restaurant personnel how nice they were, well behaved. It was a joy taking them, and my wife and I glad to do it next year.
That's awesome.
And Mr. Davis did a really good job. He was very competent. He had a few curveballs thrown at him during the time, but he handled fine and everything went off. It was perfect. So, we
That's
got good
awesome.
kids.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you
Thank you very
much.
much.
One other thing I learned. What kind of season is it? Yeah, we were
It's what?
hollering at kids, I guess at a certain time you don't wear the straw cowboy hats, you turn the belt hats.
Belt hats.
Yeah, I never. Yes, they
Take
did.
note of that.
Okay.
Thank you. That was awesome.
That's it.
Any other announcements, celebrations?
That takes care of it for now.
I will just say the play was absolutely outstanding.
Oh, my goodness.
So I don't know who was able to attend that, but I went Friday night. I know I saw John there, Christine, Deb, you were there. Kudos to the kids, kudos to the staff, kudos to everybody involved. It was absolutely amazing. My comment to my wife was they undercharged for it. That was worth way more than $6 when you let them up that night. So great job, to everybody involved.
I am surprised every year. I don't know why I'm surprised after all of these years. I watch and I totally forget that I'm watching, I guess, a high school play. I'm not sure what I would, it's amazing. And I know that a lot of work goes into that. The sets are amazing. They bring new people into the fold. I couldn't have thought, I'm kind of like you. I thought, I'd buy that. I'd buy like a video of that.
We had figured that it was close to 700 days since the last time they had a live audience. show.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it was pretty impressive to have an audience there, and the crowd was feeding things well, and it was just really a good moment. We needed it.
We needed it.
And it really-
Yeah,
Full
we
house on
needed it.
Saturday.
It was
same
full
on
Friday. It was full. Yeah. And it really showcases that auditorium. And you just sit back there, you just watch these amazing kids in a beautiful space, and it was really neat. So.
One other thing, just real quick, I want to thank all the parents that are going to be able to come to conferences, those that already went at the high school, but that they'll also be coming to the book fair here, which is behind us in the intermediate library. That's all I have.
Any other announcements, celebrations? Board, are we good? On the board reports, the election results are in. They are not certified until tomorrow, which is odd, but Josh and Alex, I know I see you guys in the back. Congratulations. We're really excited with you guys. Excited. Again, John and Deb, you got one more left, but big shoes to fill, gentlemen, especially Deb's.
Yeah.
Convention is starting on Wednesday. I believe Tyler and I are attending, and I think Josh, you're attending in the afternoon. That's correct. Jeff, you're not able to attend, and Alex, you're not able to attend as well. Okay, so yeah, so again, we'll be there and we'll figure all that out, but it's a great couple days. We'll learn a lot and very interested to see how this year looks, since last year we were not able to attend this due to COVID. Any seat nominations for Director District Number 5? Come forward. I assume not, so I will go on to old business.
Can I ask one question though?
Sure.
With that annual convention, are they recording it again like they did that last? Will they be recording
I
sessions for folks?
think
who
they
can't
said
attend?
they are, but I can't remember that off the top of my head, but I'm pretty
Okay.
sure they said they would be recording
Right,
sessions.
so if you can't go,
Yeah.
they are excellent sessions.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
All right, old business. We have the second reading for the policies listed below. Again, these policies here in the first section, there are no differences from what we have currently and what IASB is recommending. We have a motion to approve.
So this is for
So
A,
moved.
right?
This is for A.
So moved, second.
Just any further discussion? I assume this is going to waive the third reading as well.
Yes.
John was the first, Deb was the second. All right, John, I assume you're going to waive the third reading?
Yes.
Your motion? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. 7.02, we have a second reading again with a possibility to waive the third reading. Now, we are removing these policies altogether. Is that correct, Christine?
That is correct.
Yep. Any discussion on these or a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second. I'm getting that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Construction update. Do we have Adam? And Sam are both on? Short and quick.
Yeah, Adam is there as well. He's going to get started with some of the field updates. Adam, are you there?
He's
In
waving.
mute.
We can see you.
There we go. There we got it.
There we go.
We don't have it.
No, we don't.
Adam, can you turn your video off to see if it'll buffer better?
Yes.
There you go.
How about now?
Yes.
You're good.
Got you.
All right. Perfect. Yeah, the update on the fields, they continue to grow and fill in, much like what Adam was expecting. Adam from Iowa State. At this point, this fall, there's no additional work that needs to be done. He gave some recommendations for some action to take next spring. That everything will be fine come springtime and they'll be playable, just like everybody in the group wanted to have them playable come time for them to be played on.
Thanks, Adam. Any questions for Adam? Again, I don't.
No, I'll just go a little bit further. So
Oh, yeah.
to get closure with Iowa Athletic tenfold and review it with her. And if it needs to get in front of the board, Christine can share that with the board, and then we would then propose it to Iowa Athletic, then to get it totally closed out.
So what do you say there that we missed?
Yeah, what Adam was saying is that we still have an outstanding bill with Iowa Athletics. And so I have been working with Adam working with them to come to a conclusion. They'll bring that to me and to us to see where we finish up with it. Because right now, I think they're saying we owe one thing and I'm not sure we agree.
Oh, I'm
at this
sure.
point. But Adam's taking the lead on that to come to a conclusion, and then he'll share that with me, I'll share it with you, and we'll make a decision.
Any questions for Adam at all on the turf? We will probably not be, obviously with winter coming up, there will be no more updates, obviously for a while, there's no growing season.
I just reiterate the obvious, communicate very clearly with the athletic director and with Tim and with the softball, baseball, because it's my understanding we will need to do some aeration. So just be, over communicate in the spring so that everybody knows what the timing is.
Christine, have you seen any numbers on this,
In regards to,
the difference?
no. And that's something too, to Tyler's point, is that I look forward to having that conversation even now, what spring will look like. Maybe we don't have the dates exactly, but we need to lay that out, like you're saying, the communication, so we're ready whenever that takes place.
So we know that they are charging one thing and we know we disagree, but we don't know the difference between, were you talking about the?
Yes.
the
Oh,
amounts?
okay, the Iowa Athletics. Yes, they sent us a bill, which I forwarded to Jill and I forwarded to Adam. And so it's the remaining balance that they're expecting. And so the conversation we need to have will be around the remaining balance and then the money we have spent correcting things related to that. So, that's the conversation I imagine. I'm not sure what that's gonna look like when Adam meets with them, what they're gonna say, if they're gonna say it's this amount. I think the bill is, and Adam, you can correct me, I'm thinking it's $59,000, I think, is that,
What's the final payment to the Fort Dodge Group?
It's $70,000 roughly.
and so that's the conversation we need to have, is that, and then if we spent other money to make some correction, are we gonna pay them 70,000, what that looks like?
Well, these guys can help out too.
If they're watching this video, we're thinking it's closer to like 1,000.
Well, no, I just think,
Oh, that's 14.
I just think that everybody's got to be part of the solution. That includes these guys.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so.
Well, what I recall when we made that change, we made that decision, it was clearly in the camp of construction management and Sam with Tenfold to go back and say, discontinue your services. We're not going to be paying you the full amount. So if that hasn't been resolved, I absolutely agree. We'd ask Sam and Adam to get that clarified. So I don't think that needs to be on your lap.
Thank you. And so Iowa Athletics in the last month or two have been sending it directly to me and wanting to meet with me. And so just today, we had a conversation via email with Adam that he sent that over to him and he's gonna, with his group, take care of it and then come back to us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
You're up.
Yep.
Sam.
Yeah, so regarding the bike path extension project, the agreement that we put together for our team, the design team, to do that work is in front of you tonight for approval. And that the design team being Tenfold Architecture, as well as we're teaming up with Fox Engineering out of Ames. Scott Williams is the primary contact for that, and he's been instrumental in some of the other recent development bike paths around the development around Gilbert over the past handful of months and years. So he's very familiar with what's going on. And so he and I arrived at a number, and that's what you have in front of you in terms of the agreement. If that gets approved tonight, it's about a 4 to 6 week process to wrap up drawings and specifications for that project. And so we'd be done with that by late December, early January. And then it would go into bidding, which is we typically allow for 4 weeks for contractors to look at it and prepare bids. And so we would have bids by late January, early February. And then we would anticipate construction starting in the first thaw. So in the spring, so late March, early April, for right around that time frame for construction to start. And that wouldn't take any more than just maybe a handful of weeks, maybe a month or so, depending on weather and rain and whatnot. But a relatively quick project. But yeah, we would be able to start that first thaw if you guys approve the agreement tonight, and we can get started on that right away.
Sam, can you remind us what that estimate was? I know it was just an estimate. Was it 75,000 for the full project, or what was the target on that?
Yeah, that was the estimate that Adam, and I think he had a couple of guys take a look at it, contractors locally look at it, say 75,000 is what that arrived at.
So for that type of project, would 20% be typical for the support, or what? What would you describe the support needs here to be 20% of the project?
In terms of the fee percentage?
Yeah.
So in a project as small as this, there's still a certain base amount of work that has to get done. So is that typical? Yeah, I think that's probably typical, what we would do for that. And a big chunk of that is from Fox Engineering. They're going to be doing the majority of the kind of design work, and we're kind of on the management, and we're doing part of the specifications and contract arrangement, as well as bidding and negotiation with contractors, and as well as construction administration. But yeah, that's not out of the norm for something like this.
Yeah, but isn't surveying some of that stuff outside of your project realm? I mean, that shouldn't be in your fee, should it?
No, that'll be a part of Scott's with Fox. They'll come out and do a topography survey, and that will then be the basis for their drawings and specifications for that part of that work.
You need a motion to approve it? Or have we already done that?
No.
I make a motion to approve the project that's listed here.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed. Thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you. Well, we'll get started right away and provide updates in the future.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sam.
All right, next up, we have the Novo Construction Solutions, I think, here to present to us.
Yes, we have Patrick Davis and Brian Crawford here to talk to us about the work that they do through Novo. Just to give a little bit of context, I was introduced to these wonderful gentlemen and their organization through the Grandmeyer Search Services. And that's when we started having conversations about how they could help us. So thank you for being here.
Sit down, you guys, and relax. What are you doing?
Says the guy in the hoodie.
That's exactly.
Sorry, that was good. I was waiting for my-
Sit down and relax. Come on.
For the hoodie.
Oh, I love it.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
You bet.
My name is Brian Crawford, and Patrick's with us. Christine, thank you very much for inviting us up here. And a special thanks to Deb for her 4 years of service. I know what it's like to be a school board member.
John at 18, just in case.
Oh,
John did twice as much.
well, finishing up my third term, I got 2 years left at Clark of Osceola.
All right.
So I understand that, and thank you guys both very much. Appreciate that. The reason why we're here today is, yes, Grandmeyer introduced us to Christine, and shared a little bit about what we do. The Novo is a program management firm. What is program management? How is it different than construction management, architecture, engineering, and so forth? And it really kind of started, I've been in K-12 schools for 27 years, building them all across the state of Iowa and Missouri, even into a little bit of southern Iowa or southern Minnesota. And every project I'd go to, and especially Brad Hohensee over at BGM Community Schools, done 4 projects for him. And I think it was maybe on the third one, he mentioned, why can't you just do it all? And I'm like, why do you say that? He goes, I like working with you. I get tired of having to call 10 different people all the time to make one thing happen. And so that's kind of where the thought about program management comes about. Everything is done per Iowa code. So everything's publicly bid. But the big difference is we manage the entire process for you. And what that does is that enables your superintendent to manage the school district. She went to school to be an educator. Not everybody has construction or engineering, architecture, design experience in their wheelhouse, but she knows education. And she's a CEO. She has to make all these facilities run, the ball fields, schools, buses, beans, buses, and balls. So that's where we were kind of talking about creating a long-range facility master plan, coming in, looking at all your needs over a long horizon and matching those up with your revenue, whether it's through PEPAL, whether it's through SAVE, or even if you go out for a general obligation bond. But it's more of a holistic look at everything, of keeping those items out there on the radar of when do you need to start replacing roofs? When do rooftop units need to be replaced? When does carpet need to be replaced? So then you can plan for those upcoming unknowns at the time. Just a little bit about us. Go back a slide. Worked in over 68 different school districts throughout the state, 140 different K-12 facilities, and about $385 million worth of work in the state of Iowa that we've done. Recently, we're working with West Marshall over in State Center. We'll be helping Iowa Falls with their March referendum coming up for, that's about $30 million. Just bid out a project at Audubon for a little over $10 million, and that's getting ready to get started. And we're also doing facility master planning at Eddyville, Blakesburg, Harlan, and PCM. So that's a little bit about us on that. Our facilities or our processes and everything else. We look at facility master planning. We look at everything from master planning, program management, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architecture. And when you think about architecture and mechanical engineers and such, I know you've worked with some others. And we always invite them to be part of the team because we look at every project stands alone, and what is the best players for your team. So it's kind of like the NFL. We want to build the best team for you that's going to provide the most value at a reasonable price.
So what Christine has explained to us in what we know of Gilbert schools is you've gone through a lot of construction. You have fantastic facilities here and it shows, and the community is very, very proud of the school district here. And so you had a very strategic step-by-step plan that you followed to get to this point. You don't do that unintentionally. You were very intentional about getting here. And so kudos to you on planning and following through and getting to this point where you're ready to start planning and following through again. So most of what was in that 2017 study from HALA, which now is tenfold, has been checked off the list. You got there. So, and then now what's next? So you need to do that long range planning, realign, understand where those enrollment trends are going, up, down, what those future needs are going to be, and then aligning those projects, like Brian said, with the funding when the time comes. So, yeah. Any questions about the facility? What strategic long range planning looks like would need to include?
Can you walk through your process a little bit? I mean, obviously, from what I've talked to with Tyler, I wasn't part of the board when they did this, but it was an extensive amount of work was done into that 2017 planning. So walk through kind of how that works for you guys. I mean, who are the stakeholders? Who do you discuss with? I mean,
yeah, what we do is first thing we like to do is we like to do a canvas of your facilities, kind of like the old Polaroid from the 80s.
Okay.
Where are we at today? What's the status of the rooftop units, the carpet, the flooring, trying to understand everything. What's the useful life remaining in all of these assets of the school districts. From that point right there, we identify that, and we put a grade upon those. How many more years are out? So that helps prioritizing throughout the process. Then we go through what we like to consider is called an ideation session. And that's where we meet with your staff. And where do you foresee Gilbert schools being at in the future? Where do you foresee education in the classrooms? And try to get that big audacious goal out there from that perspective. From there, we send out a survey to every staff member within the district. And we're asking about their physical spaces where they teach or where they cook at within the kitchen. What needs do they have, and bring this information back. Sometimes we get things with, I just wish that electrical outlet worked. Other times I could use something more new desks, new furniture, how they work with their class and students. We also take a look at the biggest thing that I have really come to finding out is what additional arrows can we put in the teacher's quiver so that they can reach the students. Sometimes that's as easy as more fresh air coming in. Just by increasing the fresh air, you can increase student performance 3.5%. Lighting is very similar to that. Perhaps it's with tunable, dimmable LED lighting in the right spots. I know I've done an unscientific test. It used to be, I don't know what they call it now, Iowa Basic Skills Test. And 4 sections per grade. And we changed out lights in 2 of the classrooms, K through 12 in the school district. And the students that had the new tunable LED lights was another 2.5% better than the students taking the others. Now they're assuming that all the classes are equal, but what else can we do to help create a warm, welcoming, safe environment for students to come? Because let's be honest, as board members of school districts, we're all competing for students to open enroll in. So how can we improve those types of items? Then from that point, we take a look at all the items that have been discussed and identified. We usually do a first path over that as far as looking at the revenue in the future and how that matches up with known items such as buses that have to be replaced or IT equipment that has to be replaced, because everybody's going after those dollars. And then we look at your rooftop units, and this one here has 7 years, so we put that out there. And then we put that together through a prioritization ranking, and it's weighted. So our first path, we look at it as if we were going to manage and run the facility. But there's a spot on there for board members to say, no, this should be a 1, this should be a 2. And of course, those items are more heavily weighted because we're not from the community, and that's where you come in to help guide that and direct that. The nice thing about this whole cash flow schedule and future value is basically what we're looking at is here's what it costs today. Here's what the future value of a new rooftop unit would be in 8 years. How does that match up with your revenue stream? So then you're not caught with unknowns or a future board with those type of expenditures. Throughout that process, then we go through, design the projects, publicly bid them out, and then manage that construction process. Does that answer your question, Andrew?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like I said, I wasn't part of the, 7, 8 years ago when this process went through, 17, 4 years
So would
ago.
you represent the school then? Would you be a school representative on a construction project?
Yes,
So we wouldn't need a third party that anymore if we have you on staff.
correct.
Can we, this is all good. When I first saw the documents, and visited with Christine earlier today, just to try to understand, I mean, I think that what you put together certainly makes sense, but it seems like it's focused primarily on equipment and what we have today.
Sure.
One of the things that where Andrew, I think, is going that we really need is a full assessment of, I would say, our current capacity.
Okay.
We would want to, and what we did the last time, I'm not saying that's, well, someone would need to bring enrollment projections.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, open enrollment. that kind of opens a floodgate sometimes.
Lots of.
Which
A
is,
lot of
which
kids
is
don't.
good, but that's the dialogue we need to have, but that's part of our planning too. Let alone like long range, not just, well, how's this building doing, but 15 years from now, we need a 5th building, 20 years, we need a 6th building, or what does that look like?
We can
So-
definitely, we do take a look at your student enrollment from the past and how that's trending. And then we also look at projecting into the future of what that's going to be. So based upon your future enrollment, based upon your current assets or your facilities, and what the future concept of what education will be in 5, 10, 15 years from now, we can help to determine if you need a new elementary, if you need a new middle school, what that might be, and then we base that also off of the current age of your existing facilities. Because sometimes it's not just something, you need a new facility, but then you may also have to be replacing or upgrading an existing or adding on to that too. So we can create that
So all
long
of
range
that
facility.
is embedded in this, or are we throwing a bit more at you, which is what I'm assuming?
The open or the enrollment projections and stuff like that, that's no problem. So we can take care of those items.
This, I wish I pronounced it wrong. We've done that first in the past, and I think we would probably use them again. I don't think.
Who is that?
I'm not,
Ipsos.
yeah, she don't ask me to say it again. I'll say that.
Yes,
So I mean, that's we've used them in the past. We've liked using them. So in my mind, I don't think we can use past and project too, but I think they really get deep down into the birth rates and everything else in Story County. I mean, they've done a pretty good job for us. So we would utilize that, and then again, open enrollment's a whole nother discussion that's on our plate. Because right now we don't have open enrollment, it's very limited. But we're talking about possibly opening it up down the road, depending on facility.
We do have developments and.
Housing development.
Housing developments and.
Larry gives a lot of good information with his enrollment projection.
Yeah.
Yeah, Larry Siegel with this.
Yep.
Yep. And so, yeah, working with either, third party like that.
Yeah. I mean, my main concern is just, again, staff involvement, community involvement, not just board involvement. And I mean, really, what does community want? What does the staff want? And then we can go back and prioritize what those are. I want to make sure we get everybody involved. And not just check off the boxes and say, okay, well, this is old, this is new. we can do This.
Right. The one thing as far as what I like to do, as I mentioned before, we get the staff involved throughout this process. We bring all this information back to you as a board. And then usually we'll break down into like a subcommittee of the board, maybe a facility committee. From that point right there, then we start going into the prioritizations on the items. And depending upon where that's leading to a project, some projects can be done with board action. Other items you want to make sure that you got the support of the community before you move forward. That's where we can provide community engagement moving forward. So then you as a board member know that you have the backing of the community to move forward with a possible referendum at whatever stage that might be down the road.
I appreciate the proposal. It seems to me that it's like when I look at the table, when we're talking about accessibility, we're talking controls and energy management, we're talking about electrical systems, plumbing. I mean, those, no doubt, that would be good to have a nice review of everything we've got, right? Maybe not the high school because it's relatively new. But I would agree, and if that were a starting point or independent of the full planning, but I'd like to see more of how we go about a long-range planning, and maybe that wasn't exactly what you intended out of this, so we're probably throwing you a curveball here.
No, and I think this is why we're here, right? Is to have this kind of conversation to say, some of the things that we talked about earlier, looking at what had been done in the past, and now sort of comes together and becomes just an added piece. And so I think this is a start, but I see exactly what you're saying is that we could say, okay, what else needs to be added to this so that it is either we want it to be a total picture like we talked about, or we're just going to focus in this area. I think I kind of agree with what we talked about earlier is that You know, that total picture is really important so that we can make those decisions, utilizing the groups that you had used before that did well for us. We want to continue with that, which they have a relationship, so I'm glad to hear about that. But if it's something that we need to add to this, then we need to do that. Or it's also something, maybe it's a work study that we need to have a further discussion. You know, once you get into it, you might realize, hey, we need to talk more about this. And we can do that too. So whatever you guys think.
No, I would challenge this board is that Tyler's right. You know, we have a big plate, you know, that we have to catch up on, just like everything else. You're going, we have to catch up. The money doesn't bother me, the 18 grand, I think that's a deal, okay? In my world, I think that's a deal. But I think it's a start. I think they're here tonight and they haven't said no to anything. And which worries me a little bit because they don't know you or me. And
No.
so, but I'll tell you what I think. I think it's a great start, and it gives us, you know, if nothing else, it gives us VIN numbers on our rooftops, so we know how old they are. It gives us process, just like you and I talk about. Gives us a chance to start looking at this and say we can proactively run our business instead of reactively running it when it's 40 out, 40 below, and we don't have any heat. You know, those are frustrating things because we should have that information. And I think you get us started. Whether we do it next year, I don't know that, but I think you're a great start for us.
And sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
So I'm comfortable with that too.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we have some alignment that this is this part, which, you know, I like this table, that's very focused. We're gonna need more.
Yeah.
Well,
And so to me, that could be a nice
Yep,
start.
yep.
It will help you with some of the issues of, well, what do I work on? Most of this stuff is pebble. I mean,
Right,
it's
right.
not going out for bond.
Right.
That I see here, but we need to be doing the big picture, and then that's an opportunity. Hey, do we do it with the Novo, or how do we approach that?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, because you kind of got two things going on. You have this, okay, here's our existing infrastructure that all has to be running and going and projections about how long this stuff's gonna last. And then you got the bigger picture, okay, how's that gonna fit into our long-term strategic planning? And so it's that, you know, we're in this circle and we're gonna need a bigger circle, but this is a good one to start on.
Yeah. You wanted to say something, yeah.
So under the bullet point 1 on the first page for the long range plan document, so that is that staff survey, visioning sessions, prioritization. So I do have that language in there if that is.
So all I'm saying is, if our focus is page 2's table.
Sure.
I'd say we do that, but we make sure we're really clear, we're focused on these things. Because it could get confusing really fast of, whoa, this is where I'm supposed to pitch a new building, this is where, no, we're talking about understanding what we've got.
Yep.
We as a board probably need to very quickly go, here's, hey, staff, community, here's also what we're doing.
Right.
Simultaneous or immediately after that. So I'm just saying it, I'm myself, and I think the board is trying to orient, what is the scope of this? We also have a bigger scope of need that we're not expecting you to shove all that in here.
Yeah. And this is more of an immediate need in our minds too. Let's get moving.
Right.
The other one's more, not as immediate, but we want to do a deep dive. We want to go through that process a little bit slower and really get input, figure out what is the best needs for this community. That's where I'm agreeing with Tyler.
And we want you to help our superintendent. She's busy right now. You know, and we can take this off of her plate. That'd be nice.
Well, thank you. I will say a couple things. One that I appreciate about this group is that when I had a conversation with them about transportation, it wasn't really in our original plan, but it's here now. So I'm very grateful to them for that. Secondly, I had multiple conversations. Patrick and I have been working together as we started the project with the fields, as I stepped into this role, and was learning as quickly as I could about how to grow grass. Patrick was helping me in having some of that language that was key in moving us forward as well. And again, that's not a part of this per se, but those are a couple of things that we've done together that I've been very appreciative as I've met them early on through Grenmeyer. So I appreciate how they've been receptive to some of those pieces that I brought forward to them. So I'm grateful for that.
They say timing's everything.
Yeah, do you guys keep like a list of contractors too, so if something blows up, that you'd handle that kind of thing too? Like, for example, we have an electrical line that's running out to
Yeah.
someplace that's not working, that we can't figure out why it's shorting out. Would that be like something you guys would put out for bid and help us with?
For a replacement or something like that, yeah,
Yeah.
we can. Typically, you know, I'll give you two extremes, okay? Say you want to replace carpet in 5 classrooms, pick 5 classrooms next summer. And typically you send out to buildings and grounds manager. He comes back with 4 different quotes. And you got an apple, an orange, a banana, and a grapefruit. Because they're not all quite the same. Typically what we do in those areas is we'll provide just like 1 or 2 sheets. That's just a basis of design. And then when the board gets the numbers back, everything should be apple to apple and all red apples.
Oh, gotcha.
From that perspective. But then we also do the other end of a much larger project of a brand new school or renovations of a school. And so that's kind of where we're at with that right there, from one extreme to another.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. Also then from master planning and looking out there, it's not just your facilities or your assets inside. And I'm thinking that might have been our error in understanding, Christine, as far as what we was looking for a little bit on that time. So we didn't include in, you know, the population, student trending, and then looking out in 10 years, okay, we're going to have X kids coming in. What's that going to do to our overall facilities, and where do we need to build a new school? I'm working right now preliminary with Van Meter schools. They're right there on the edge of Waukee. They're not allowing open enrollment in either. They're maxed out right now. They know they need to build a new school at some point in the future, in the near future. But where do you build that? What is that, a K3 or is that a middle school? So those conversations right there are starting to work through in that process. And we also provide those services too.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is this something you recommend?
I do recommend what they're offering to us. If I think back, it's funny, because gosh, seems like it was August or early in the year that we met. And as we talk about strategic planning, this is one piece of that. I mean, we know strategic planning, there's short-term, there's long-term, there's the instructional side, and then there's the operation side. This gets us started on the operation side, so I do recommend.
For the scope of what we discussed prior, which is that current assessment, more
Correct.
so. And so that projected growth and stuff is really a part of that larger, more the elementary school, right, that we're talking about is in that space. So in this, I just want to say, this is the scope of this is the small circle.
Where you sitting
Easier.
Yeah.
Your
So
piece,
We
right?
start here, and then I think it could
Yeah.
grow into that, but we just
Just
that's how I see it.
start with, a well-defined scope, right?
I think this right here would be great. This is a great place to start. It gives the board and the new board members an opportunity to see how we work together, make sure it's a good fit. And as we move down the road, then from there, then we can expand. But you got to start someplace.
Yep, I'm supportive and sorry for the sidebars, that I'm just trying to keep it moving forward. I like the objectives. I don't know if we can pull those up or if you've got them from your proposal.
Right, yeah, I don't have them.
Just at the bottom of that page 2.
It's page 2 objectives, because I'm
Jason, do
just-
you have Dropbox?
This is what
Yes,
Oh.
well, I'll just.
He needs a cord back.
That's all right, we can just.
That's all right.
Oh, you don't have Dropbox?
That's all
So provide the district with an evaluation of the current.
Right.
Number 1 makes sense, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Number 2 is where I'm saying, let's be careful there that we're not jumping into that one,
right,
right?
right.
Because that'll take the eye off the ball to me a little
Yep.
bit. Not that we wouldn't with you at some point,
Gotta start with the base.
but
Okay.
start with an evaluation of our current condition of facilities, which is what I understand. I'm just throwing out my ideas here, so I'm not saying that's. Number 2, I'd be careful. I don't even know if I'd include it at this point, or it'd be at the end. No, then I'd go to number 3, provide the district with estimated cost to implement the various identified facility improvements, right? That makes sense. And then jump down to 5 because you wanted transportation. And 7, assist the education foundations. If they want to pay for some of those projects, great. But number 2 starts to be a little confusing, I think, with the bigger project. And the only reason I bring it up is not that we're not going there and not that we couldn't go there with you. But I think especially when we're interviewing staff and community, let's be really clear about what stage we're at. Because I think you can start getting, hey, we need a new building, we need this, we need that. And what this focus is let's get a really good assessment of what we currently have, right? And so my only comments, I like the objectives, I focus, I guess, as I look at it on 1, 3, 5, and 7. And let's, as Jeff said, let's start there.
Where would like the schedules, like, for example, okay, here's the carpet situation, so here's the plan for carpets at the middle school, high school, or, you know, whatever the flooring is, whatever that rotation needs to be, so that we're kind of like a roof. The roofs are easy, right? It's got to get, okay, here's what we're estimating for the roofs, you know, what we need to do per year, all that goes with that. So
Yeah,
that
because
would be a
right now
part of
we're,
this.
yeah, right now we're putting $100,000 away for roofs every year, and we don't spend it.
We have.
But I mean, we haven't, and you know, when you go to do your budget and think, we gotta be smarter than this, so we shouldn't
Oh,
put
we
it there.
put
if it's
about
not.
$100,000 a year away for the turf replacement.
I know, but I know the turf.
Yeah, but that's I get the.
But it's running that schedule of,
Right.
you know, the life of the turf is, you know, 10 years. And so then we gotta put this much money away because in 10 years we're replacing it. So how many things like that do you guys keep track of, or is it like a one-time snapshot of, hey, here's where we are today, but we're not really setting up the systems to monitor it? That's my question, I guess.
Probably the easiest answer to that is everything we do is we'll provide you booklets and stuff, and you'll have homework assignments, go home and read everything. But we do keep it digitally. And then typically, because there's going to be years where, let's just be honest, you guys are going to go out and do some things on your own that you can handle. And that makes sense. And then we'll sit down with Christine once a year. What would you update? What'd you do? And then we can update that electronically. Also though, but it's all tying back to the current value and then projecting what the future value is. So then that's like a sliding scale where, well, what if we move this up 2 years and take care of it now because something happened, and then how's that affect the overall budget?
So it'd be kind of like an annual picture. Here's was our priorities last year. We worked on the priorities that we agreed upon. Next year, hey, here's the next picture. And we just kind of update the stuff we looked at.
We just updated
Yeah,
and do that, and then that's just a small service fee on top of that right there.
Kind of piggyback on what Tyler said, and I agree. I kind of want to keep this where we're at today, but I also wouldn't mind if you did analysis on our space today too, how it sits today without projecting into the future. Just say, okay, here's where your space is today. Here's what our thoughts are with regards to what space you have today. Are you best utilizing the space? What could be some ideas of what you can do with some other spaces without getting staff or community involvement into that? Just your recommendations or thoughts on it. And then we can go from there and say, okay, well, we've got enough space for X amount of classes with X amount of kids, and here's what we're short if we're gonna project this amount of growth. And we gotta know that to our next step.
Right.
Yeah, so this one would just not involve the long-range planning. Additional facilities, we want to work with our existing facilities to say, how long is that gonna work for us?
Yeah.
Or if there's any inadequacies within your existing, do you need 1 or 2 classrooms to offset, something like that. I think that's good. As far as the community engagement, that really happens down the road. It wouldn't be part of this until you're possibly thinking about a referendum at some stage.
Also, I wanted to mention that was the other thing I had talked to Patrick about, was on number 7, assisting with the education foundation. what that was is each principal had shared that they were looking at the idea of an outside classroom space. And that was the big idea that we brought to the foundation. And so then I talked to Patrick about maybe they could help us just plan that, and then it would be up to the Education Foundation to then take kind of the ball and run with it. So that's where that came from, just so you know that whole piece.
And that would come through with conversations with the staff, and you'd still be having those conversations, I'm taking it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna ask about that, because I remember you mentioning that.
And I think we're on the same board.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
For this one, yeah.
Go ahead.
I move to approve and maybe just final focus that you can provide on objectives, and then I encourage you to be thinking about some of the other things we talked about.
And
As an additional.
I'll second that. I agree. Yeah, thank you guys.
Any further discussion? My last quick comment here, I want you guys to be an extension of Christine and our district here too. We're needy. I'm gonna throw that out to you right now. We're gonna be a needy group. We're gonna ask a lot of you, but we trust you. So, but thank you very much for presenting. Any other further discussion? All those-
So that, one more, that kind of annual update as a percent, what would you expect, for the annual update then of the, 18,000,
Yeah.
whatever, 10%, 20%, 60%? And I won't hold you to it, but I just want to have an idea.
He's gone after
He's a number.
He's gonna come, he's gonna hold us to it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to commit
Yeah.
if you don't feel comfortable committing, but I just want to set the expectation of, are we talking about an $18,000 annual fee? Or
No, it's not an $18,000 annual fee. It's really based upon the
hours?
service or the amount of work that would go into it. I mean, if it's coming up and spending a day and then maybe a day back in the office, that's one thing. If it's rehashing a bunch of different items, that's a different one.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe $3,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, plus or
Okay.
minus a little bit.
No, that gives me
Does that give you enough?
Yeah, I just was trying to make sense of what we're committing.
I need a bunch of those just so I can go to Florida.
And I just want to be clear, what is it that we are approving right now? It's the 18,100, whatever.
Yep.
And then this goes on, they'll do this current study. And if it's after a year, we find out, wow, well, thanks, we got what we needed, we're done. We do that. Right?
This
I mean,
is
it's just
timelined
the
out
18.
to March, really.
Yeah.
So
Right?
it's
I mean,
just
it's
a
fairly
short term.
short. And all I'm saying
When
is
John
it's
started talking
focused.
about yearly fees, I started getting nervous voting on something
Well, so
right now.
So one of the strategies that I think we need as a board to be a hold of is we need something that's kind of programmatic
Yeah.
to keep us where we need to be so that we keep Christine on.
Yeah, we do a lot of things that are never perpetual.
Yeah.
We solve today and then we all walk out.
Yeah, and it's not that the 2017 plan didn't work out well, and I think the timing was right for that, but being with, all that Christine has on her plate, we don't want to be any more time in the facilities than we have.
So.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yes.
You can go halfway to Florida now.
Wednesday night.
Wednesday.
I could get Andrew a new black and gold tiger hawk.
You just lost my vote.
I already got your vote.
You said
Get out of
that.
here. I don't agree with that statement. in
That's
any-
okay.
any
Thank you,
portion.
Patrick.
Thank you very much. Trent speaks very highly of you guys.
Here, right here.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks. You bet.
And that is a great transition into esports.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vic, welcome. Yeah, thanks, Patrick.
Gonna go one.
Thank you.
I like that.
Sitting here next to you.
School concert's going well.
Good to know. Sorry, we're
Welcome,
missing-
Vic.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Uh, probably last spring, Troy and I started a conversation about the potential of adding esports to the high school. It's one of the fastest growing activities in high schools and universities across the country. You're starting to see more and more of these kinds of programs added. And the driving force behind it, or the driving thought behind it is, what can we do to continue to add things at the high school to our community that are going to get kids more engaged? We all know the research, the more engaged you are in activities, the more protective factors you have, the better outcomes students have. And so what we want to do is continue to look at how can we add new things, especially in things that are a little more cutting edge, adding technology. We recently added bowling, great opportunity. If you haven't had a chance to go out and watch them practice and things, it's fun. The more activities we can add to get more kids engaged, the better. Not every kid is going to be a throw the ball, run, jump, score touchdowns, wrestle, play music. What else can we add? And we know that technology is a huge part of our society, and especially our students are growing up with that. So I'm going to pass it on to Troy. Troy teaches some computer science courses at the high school, and then he's involved in some technology courses at the middle school, and he's put together a presentation to go through these.
I know most of you, like Mr. Vanderpool said, I have worked with several of your kids, but at the middle school and high school both now. And so, yeah, just kind of go through this and talk about it a little bit. So Mr. Vanderpool kind of alluded to this a little bit. Part of the rationale behind this is just adding a purpose for our students to be part of the community, doing something they're confident in and never maybe had a community before. And so hopefully reaching some of those students. And in talking with other members of the Iowa High School Esports Association, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in a bit, it's definitely having that impact in some districts, especially districts similar to us and our size and in our area. So some of the benefits, again, some of the community we alluded to a little bit more with attendance and academic performance. There's a correlation between that. And then, some of those soft skills that we really push, you might not immediately think about that when you think of playing video games, but if you ever watch like a tournament or something like that, these things are really happening. The ability to communicate among teams, interpersonal skills, collaboration, problem solving, all those types of things. Again, you don't necessarily think about that probably in your typical thoughts of teenagers playing video games in the basements necessarily, but even from my own experience, having my son in that kind of wheelhouse right now, the communication that they do online, it's at times pretty amazing because you don't necessarily know what they're talking about in the context of the game, but when you watch them do it, it's pretty cool. And so, again, too, this was something that kind of blew my mind. I first kind of heard about esports in the state at the iTech conference that happens in Des Moines, and I had no idea of the impact of it either, just how big it really is. So this kind of gives you a clue as far as like League of Legends, one of the games, their finals a few years back had more viewership than any single sporting event besides the Super Bowl and the World Cup finals. And in America, that was only superseded by the Super Bowl itself. So you think about all the time that even myself spent watching college sports, NCAA tournament, all those events that we think are so huge. It just kind of goes to show the gravity of the whole thing. And college and universities have started jumping on board in the state here as well. A lot of them are offering academic or athletic scholarships. Some of them don't necessarily know exactly where it falls as far as activities and stuff. And so there's several in the state of Iowa. I forget the exact number, but I think I don't know if I have it on here, but I think it's something like 40 schools offer some sort of either scholarship or benefit to playing. And these are some of the more well-known ones in the state or the longer programs. Grandview is probably one of the biggest known ones. They've been doing it for quite a while, but Coe College, Hawkeye Community College, they just hosted a big college competition in Cedar Rapids not that long ago. Morningside. Some of the bigger universities don't have it yet as a program. Iowa State has it as a club. But there are some major universities like Division I types of schools that you can think about that do have it across the country. For me, like I'm fairly familiar with Boise State because I did grad work through them, and they've got one of the bigger universities there, pretty close with Grandview as well as far as their program and their setup and things like that. The Iowa High School Esports Association, I mentioned that a bit ago. It's relatively new. It was only created in 2019, and then the pandemic hit. But their growth has still been pretty impressive. They started off with, I think, just like a dozen schools, and then after the first year, they had 40 schools, 40 members, 50 schools now with the current winter season. Some of the local schools, Nevada added last year, Roland Story joined earlier this year, just a couple of local schools that are involved. It doesn't cost anything to join, which is obviously fantastic. And they play 3 seasons, which are pretty concurrent with what you would see in high school. They start in the fall. They just wrapped up, I think, just this week or last week with their fall esports season. They're kicking off their winter sports season around Thanksgiving here. That'll go until about spring break, and then they have the spring season and so on. So they offer 8 weeks of competition followed by 4 weeks of playoffs for each title that they offer. They offer two titles every season to play. These are the current titles that they offer throughout the year. As far as some of our other preparation, we surveyed students 9 through 12, or that would be in 9 through 12 this year. We did that last spring, and over 100 students responded with expressed interest. Now, we don't necessarily expect there to be 100 students participating at any one time, but that just kind of gives you the popularity of people that responded, because if you've ever tried to send out anything to students and get them to respond, that's actually quite a feat to get 100 responses. So we've also, I visited Osage schools in the spring of last year, partially to look at their computer science offerings up there, because they're a model computer science school in the state, but also got to talk about their esports program. They're one of the founding members of the Esports Association. I also went to Nevada last spring to look at and actually watch them compete in their Rocket League competition at Nevada High School as well. There's a YouTube channel. They broadcast their events, and they have people announcing them, which is a pretty cool thing as well. And again, attended some sessions at iTech over the years. They also provided a webinar series over the course of the last 3 weeks that I've taken a look at, that talked about things like how to get off the ground and get into it, what equipment do you need, what recommendations do you have. And for us right now, the way we're leaning towards is starting with, they offer a Nintendo Switch title every season as a way for schools to kind of get in on a lower budget. And so we feel that that's probably the best way for us to kind of get it off the ground. And again, the idea being that we would be able to offer something throughout the course of the year at a fairly low, comparatively low entrance cost. And then kind of evaluate if it grows from there, that we can look at doing some of the PC gaming and things like that would be at a higher level. And so these are just some of the expectations that we talked about. Initially for this school year, we'd like to kind of kick it off in the spring. That's when they play the Mario Kart game. The hope for 22-23 would be to expand that to 1 title per season, using the Nintendo Switch offerings that they have. And then ideal would be the coaching that takes place would be a couple practices a week. The competitions and all of that are already pre-scheduled through the association. They have due dates for signing up for things, and then you have to submit a roster, and they create the schedule for you. So it's consistent, which is really nice. It's consistent. You play at the same time every week, and you're playing, beforehand. So it's not like it's well organized. It's well done. And then there's also what's called a district esports coordinator, which is kind of like, if you think of it as an esports athletic director, basically. And the purpose of that person is to be the one point of contact, so you're not, you know, if you have different coaches and things like that, everything filters to them. They would also vote on like bylaw types of things through the association, things of that nature as well, so they're the kind of the direct link for what's going on. So that pretty much summarizes up what I have to present to you guys. It's something that, again, kind of has been in the discussion for probably a couple of years almost, and something that, you know, I'm excited to hopefully get off the ground.
And if you think about the structure, it's very similar to the structure they use for athletic associations, you know, competitions, teams, rosters. It follows the same format built for athletics. It's just using esports versus traditional sports. So what questions do you have?
I have a couple.
Go right ahead, Deb.
So 100 responses, it's like 20%-ish, right? Was there a breakdown, like male, female? Did you have pretty good?
That's a good question. I could look and see if I can find that or not. I had them obviously. I don't think I broke it down by gender. I could get that information for you at some point if you want, but I know, thinking about it now, I did break it down by gender. I know there were females that responded.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would assume that there are interests.
Yep.
I was just wondering about the breakdown. And
Yep.
and then, so we talked a little bit about, I think one of them, you said one of the objectives, or maybe it was one of the pros, introduction to STEM. Like that right there, I'm like, hey. So tell me about that. I mean, I know we have students at the high school that have created their own businesses, you know, that are leveraging esports and just video in particular, but tell me about that.
I mean, I think from my perspective, part of my hope too is to help hopefully have this as a little bit of springboard of interest into more of the computer science program that we're trying to launch as well, or have launched and hopefully expand. There is definitely a correlation, like most of the colleges, what they're doing is they're going out and trying to recruit people into their computer science programs and computer engineering programs. And there is even a bit of overlap into, like, I mentioned, like Nevada broadcasts through their YouTube channel. And so you get some people that are interested in announcing and things like that too. And that's really a huge thing that's expanded too. So, you know, they'll pay people to come in and basically broadcast, they call it shoutcasting their games and stuff. And so to me, some of the esports one sounds a little bit more like when you think of kind of maybe a Brazilian soccer match or something like that, like they get really into it and they get pretty excited about it, like yelling goal, things like that. So I mean, it's pretty exciting.
Eckert and Schwarmeyer.
But I think you're right. It gets kids interested in STEM.
Yeah.
Animation and graphics and all those things that are just nice natural offshoots to being involved in those things. Different from what we use athletics for, right? We use those as a springboard to develop all those same types of skills, determination and drive and things like that to be involved in. You know,
So-
I think it ties in pretty well.
So it makes sense to me. So Vic, what exactly are you asking for us? So if we say yes, are we gonna be paying for a couple of coaches? Do we need to have some equipment? I mean, what's the ask?
Yeah, the ask is that by approving the program, then we're going to need to hire a coach and we're going to need to hire a coordinator. You know, that is on the scout salary schedule. So, you know, that is something that needs to be considered. Right now, the initial funding for the equipment, we have that already. We have some money that's been donated to the high school. Each building was given a chunk of money. So we have some money designated for that, but in the future, as we evaluate the program, if we want to go toward PC games and, you know, more sophisticated games and things, there will be money that will be needed to upgrade, you know, equipment and things. So really, we need to be approved so we can be part of this association and then be able to hire coaches to get it started.
And just to be clear, so this year, the funding for the coaches would not come from our Schedule B, but it would be something that we would look at for a year from now, since that was already negotiated earlier. So we would talk to the boosters or talk to the foundation about payment for the coaches for this year. Also, same thing, the money that Vic's talking about that was to the school is through the foundation. And so utilizing it for that, but like he was saying, it might be something we come back with to say, once they advance kind of from the switch to they need PCs and screens and controllers, and I know way too much about this stuff.
An arena. Nice arena.
That's right. Oh, an arena to go through.
Put that in the plan we were
Yeah.
just talking about.
Yeah. But then we would bring that back to the board if needed as far as paying for those things.
But you get together to play these games, you don't play them from home.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about locations to do this. I think we're kind of leaning towards using just the library space since it's basically not used after school for the most part. But yes, the kids would be. I will say that there have been with COVID, last year there were kids that were playing from home, and I think they've had a little carryover that from the association of this year too. So I'm not saying they can't play at home. But the idea mainly would be that you would be all in the same place and
Build a
doing the same.
community.
That's good.
And the competitions have been online, so we could be playing the beta sitting at Gilbert.
Sure.
But they want to expand where you're traveling and playing each other and, they want to
Can't do
get
any
it to the
trash
point
talking.
where.
Sure,
Type
headset
while you're
on.
playing.
And if you haven't seen this on TV, you need to go home and watch it, YouTube some of this, and it's highly competitive, and these kids are pretty serious about what they do, so it's.
There's significant money in
Yeah.
this.
Move to approve.
We have a second.
I feel like I have to second that.
Any further comments? I just have one quick comment, just with my past experience with the foundation. Just be careful about paying for salaries through the foundation. It was never intended to pay salary. I mean, when you mentioned earlier about, I don't think the foundation was ever intended to pay people through. It was always intended to give back to the school and gifts of some sort. So especially from a reoccurring expense standpoint.
I think that's.
It might only be, and it might be the boosters, and it would only be for this year, and then we would come up with a Schedule B. And only because there's a few process pieces that was new to me. And so now that I know those, we'll make sure we go through those moving forward. So.
That's my only comment on that. Yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much,
Thank you.
Troy. Thanks, Vic.
Yeah,
Nice
very
job.
good presentation.
Good job.
Anything we can do to get more students involved in things. I can only vote for so many of those more, so let's see.
Next item on the agenda is consider approval to authorize the district's administration to submit a request to the school budget review committee for a modified supplemental amount of $207,414 due to an increased certified enrollment from the prior year. We have a motion.
So moved.
Tyler, do we have a second?
Second.
John, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, consider approval to authorize the district's administration to submit a request to the school budget review committee for a modified supplemental amount of $6,070 related to the English language learning program for students who have exceeded 5 years of waiting and included in the fall 2021 certified enrollment headcount.
So moved.
Motion by Deb. Do we have a second?
Yep.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed. Last one. I'm not gonna read it. You all can read it
These,
there.
I mean, we get these every single year.
Yep.
What happens is just the dollar amount.
It's
changes,
just a dollar
right?
amount changes due to,
Yeah.
you get the head count. So
So the next one is for 37,000.
$37,994.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Last item, well, not last item, we have the first reading of some board policies there. I didn't actually, did I see those in our notes? I don't think I saw them in our board notes, so maybe we'll get
There's a
those.
folder.
Oh, it's on top. There it is. That's why I missed them. Yep, got them there. Again, no action needed tonight on those. We'll just review them, and next month we'll have a motion to approve those. Again, no differences from IASB to what we currently have in place today. Christine, are you gonna give the financial report with Gail being absent?
I was looking at Jill.
I am not.
We all saw the
I
notes.
think you have it in front of you, and
Yeah.
I think that is what we are covering right there, what you have in front of you.
Come on, let's make Gail proud.
The latest
We can do
update
this.
from
We can
Gail.
get through
We can do
one.
this.
Well,
Any questions, comments on the,
I just make a comment, the variances, look good for both the month and the year to date, so that's what you want to see, for 375,000 to the good. On net.
first page?
You got it right there.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's it right there.
Yeah, they're all green.
So at any rate, so that's a good sign.
So usually at this time of the year, right, we're like in arrears from property. Was this suggesting that we don't have that issue this year?
I didn't
Right,
see
we're always
Sean pull
behind,
that out.
people haven't quite paid.
Yeah.
But it looks to me like that's just not an issue this year, at least it's not enough to put us in the red, so it has to be good.
Yeah,
It's like we have taxes, it's been paid after October.
so if you go, Deb, to page, the one that has the actual compared to budget
Yep,
variance
I think it's
there,
on
and you
page.
go across the taxes levied on properties, the very first line.
86,000.
So that gives you the sense of, I love that, that's a good report, so raise,
Yeah.
7,005. Gail even continues to keep us in good financial position from home.
Great work, Gail.
She's amazing. The other thing too, just related to this, so you're aware, is that we are scheduled or have been scheduled for an audit. And due to everything that's been happening, that's been pushed back to December. So we're grateful to the auditors for giving us some grace, and just because of Gail being out and my availability of putting all that together. So December is when that's gonna happen.
We had some help from the ADA in filling that. I know people in the office have all stepped up, but have they offered services too to help? Or is Gail really working that much from home? She's working.
A lot. I've contacted various organizations to help and support us, and everyone has been wonderful. But Gail continues to work really, really hard while she's healing. And so the board meeting is a big one that was on her radar. We have payroll going on this week. And then she'll hopefully focus a little bit more on her healing. So we appreciate all that she's doing and want her to take the time she needs. So.
Anything else in the financials? Consent agenda, do we have anything we want to pull or discuss?
I think that's great, that you're going to the national convention.
I would agree.
Thank you.
That's great.
I'm really excited about that. It's an amazing conference. I had the opportunity to attend about 4 years ago in Phoenix, and it was wonderful. So I'm excited about that.
Move approval.
Second.
John was first. Jeff was second. Further discussion?
First time I've seen our enrollment at
1600. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps going up.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passed. Calendar, November 16th, the certified election results. So again, Josh, Alex, tomorrow's the official day. But congratulations again. December 13th, we will see you guys both here. Be Deb and John's last meeting. One more for you, Deb. So you're excited for
Well,
that?
it's like a mini meeting.
Mini
and then
meeting.
they get the
Mini
real
meeting.
right?
Better prepare your speech now.
Get your speech.
Get your speech ready, Deb.
I'll bring trust.
Move to
I'll do that.
Move
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I mean, I was rubbing my eye, I was shut.
Meeting adjourned.
Did I jump?
You too.
I don't like sitting by.
Like I said.
No.